Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about sheet metal tools in SolidWorks. Definitely another one of my favorite tools are the sheet metal tools because of how intuitively they work. I'm going to kind of put a lot on you today. I'm going to go through several different methods really quick just for comparison. I think it helps to see these kind of side by side. So the first method I'm going to use would be something similar to what I might out in the garage with a piece of sheet metal, taking that and just starting to bend a flat piece into whatever form that I want. So first thing we have to do is bring up the sheet metal tools. I go up here into this gray area and right click, go down to the sheet metal tools and turn that on, and I'll just nest this over here. You can put it wherever you like. And then notice most of the tools are grayed out. We especially want this guy right here, a base flange. We're going to start with a base feature of some kind. In this case it's a base flange. Pick a plane that you want to sketch that on, and again, remember I'm starting with kind of a simple, probably a manufacturing method I guess you could call it. Went to the line command. I'm just going to draw an edge or a line that represents the length of my sheet metal. I'll go ahead and dimension that. I'm not going to dimension most of this just because it'll take too much time. But I'll go ahead and give us some frames of reference. So there's 12 inches. And then let's center this. So I'm going to right click on that and go to select midpoint, control grab the origin and say be coincident. And what did I do? Right click, select midpoint, control grab that, tell me to be coincident. There we go. Okay, so it's centered up. And remember, I clicked on this tool over here. I didn't just start sketching. I clicked on this tool called base flange. So it knows I'm in a sheet metal operation. So when I close the sketch up, it goes right into ready to model something that's sheet metal like. I'll go ahead and make that 5 inches. Actually looks pretty good. 5 inches wide. And I'm letting it default to whatever sheet metal it already has in there. 0.118 is what it has. You go look at whatever gauge or material you're using and put that in. And I know this isn't exciting. You could have extruded and made a plate-looking thing, without any sheet metal tools. But the thing about sheet metal tools is it really sees it as sheet metal. So now we're going to be able to bend this around and have it act like sheet metal, including being able to lay it back out into a flat pattern. So to do that, I'm going to go over here to sketch bend, and grab a surface I want to sketch on, grab a line command, and I'm going to have kind of a short and a long flange. So this is going to be my slightly longer one. I'm not going to dimension these just again because it'll take too much time. Remember, that's not just a sketch line, that is the line for the bend, for this sketched bend. So I've told it where I want to bend the material. When I close the sketch, and I'll flip this so you can kind of see it, it's asking for, up here in this box is kind of the key, what do you want to keep fixed? What do you want to keep flat, and what are you going to bend up or down? So I want to keep this area out here on this side of the line flat. It puts a little dot on there to kind of remind you that that's the side you picked, and you can see a preview if you've got that on, and that's exactly what I want, so I'm going to accept it. And then let's go put in a little shorter guy over here. So same tool again, sketch bend, grab the surface I want, line command. This one's going to be a little shorter, so I'll put it closer. Do make sure that these sketch bend lines that you're putting in are really vertical or horizontal. If you kind of eyeball it in there and you don't get it right, you'll get a bend, but you'll be wondering why that's an uneven flange later. It's taller on one side, shorter on the other. So just make sure that's horizontal or vertical, whatever you're working with. Same thing, it wants to know which side is going to be fixed. This side of the line, so it bends that outside up. Okay, so that's one of the reasons I like to show that. That really isn't the one I use, the technique I use most of the time, but it gives you an idea of thinking about it from the flat, thinking about it from just a sheet of metal in your hand and bending it up. Okay, the next method I'm going to show you is, instead of bending these flanges up, we're going to add them. So I'm just going to undo, and there's not too many things here, so it won't take very long. I'm just going to undo back to where we just have that plate. And now I'm going to add flanges to it instead of bending it up. So I'm adding, I'm going to keep that original length of flat. I'm going to go over here to another command, edge flange, grab an edge, and just drag that up. I'm not going to worry about length. That'll be my tall one. We'll just accept that. We can, of course, type in the number that we want it to be. And then I'll add another one. This will be my shorty one over here. And we'll accept that. So just for visual contrast, you got two different ways of kind of making the same thing. Starting with it in the flat, forming it or bending it up, starting with it in the flat, and adding flanges to it. Neither of these are really the way I would do this. So I'm going to get rid of that one more time. And actually, I think it'll go a little quicker if I just close that, don't save, and we'll start a new one. We really will. We'll start a new one, make sure it's apart. And this time, since I'm kind of thinking ahead, I'll go ahead and grab that base flange, start on the front plane, and I'm going to doodle out the shape, the profile of this part that I have in mind. So I'm going to add a little bit more to it. Let me just put one up here. That's a future flange, if you will. Okay, so just to kind of review there's my taller flange, there's the shorter one, and I've added this one on because I'm kind of thinking ahead of what I'd like to do. And the nice thing about this setup is this whole thing now is a piece of sheet metal, and I can get all these flanges at once. So let's see what do we got there. Let's make that 3 even. Okay, so obviously quicker. I don't have to make each individual flange. I don't have to bend anything. I can get it all in one operation. And it's still smart. That is, it knows it's sheet metal. I won't flatten it out right now because it'll look like just a rectangle, but I could flatten it out with flat pattern. I'll do that when we get a little farther into it. But it really is, it's sheet metal. It knows that it's being formed that way. So the next thing I'd like to do is add a tab. Now this, what I call these, and mostly the software does this too, is this whole length right here, that thing's called a flange. Well, I'm going to use the flange tool, edge flange, come over here and grab an edge, go ahead and drag this out. But here's the difference, is I don't want it to go the full length. I want it to be a short little tab. And so I'm going to go back over to the same tool that's still open, and this is the key right here. Go to Edit Flange Profile. What you see now is you see the actual sketch that the software created. I can just grab those endpoints and drag them in. And of course I would dimension these and make it the length that I want. But now I'm just going to have this little shorty tab there. I'll say Finish. And look what it does. It's pretty smart. Because of the way it was laid out, it makes it flush. And because it's going to bend there, it puts in a bend relief so that basically it won't tear. And we could choose a tear, by the way, but it defaults to this kind of a bend relief. Let's go change that real quick just so you can see it's easy. I'm going to go right-click on that edge flange, go to Edit Feature, and I'm going to go down to the bottom, and you'll see Custom Relief Type. I'm going to customize that just a little and get from the rectangle here in the corner in the relief to an oblong. Just because it might be the way that I'm manufacturing or whatever. Okay, the next thing on this is maybe this is where the smarts really can come in. Maybe I don't really want it flush. I wanted this to offset up in the air a little bit, be sticking out up, an inch or something like that. So let's go edit that same flange, or tab in this case, and if you go down near the bottom, you'll see offset under flange position, offset, and I'm going to let it default to the number that it did. We could type in whatever we want. Notice how smart it is. That is, I think that's pretty smart that there's no relief anymore because it's not down there encroaching on that surface and going to cause deformities. It's getting bent up here in the air, and so there's no relief needed, and it knows that, and it got rid of the relief. Okay, I didn't have to check any buttons or go into any settings, or it defaults set that way. Okay. Next thing I'd like to do is maybe I'm going to punch a hole through a corner. And if you think about modeling that from scratch, that is without sheet metal tools, to cut a round hole into this, there's other methods you could, several methods you could use, but I'm going to go ahead and flatten that out, just in that corner. That's how I usually will add in a hole or a cut. So go over to the unfold command. It wants to know which side of this bend you want to keep flat, so I'm going to keep that. Select the bend that you want to unfold and say OK. It just flattens just that one bend out, so it's not like a flat pattern and then flatten the whole thing out. Now I can go to the cut command, and I stay within the sheet metal tools as much as I can. Go to extruded cut, go to the sketch tools. Oops, got to pick a plane first. Go to the sketch tools and grab your circle is what I'm planning. This is kind of a hole for maybe access to a power cord or something like that. Again, I'm not going to dimension it just in the interest of time. One thing I do is make sure that link to thickness is checked. That way it's going to for sure cut through whatever thickness of sheet metal you've got there instead of just some blind depth, and say OK. Now just cutting that hole is no big deal. We cut holes all the time in flat pieces. What's nice about this is, remember, it's a bent part. It's a sheet metal part, and that's right on the corner. So now if we go back in and fold that back up, it remembers which plane was staying flat. We collect that corner. That's pretty neat. To model that in other ways, especially so it just looks exactly like that, a little bit tricky. But to do it here, very easy. It just forms it right up. Okay. Now, one last thing I'd like to do is create a miter flange. That is a short little flange that goes around this whole outside edge here, and it works so nice. I wanted to have you see that at least for the last piece here. So go over and grab the miter flange command. It's asking for a sketch. Go over and grab a line that I want to be perpendicular to with my sketch. Go to the line command. Grab that endpoint and just stretch a line down. Make sure it's vertical or horizontal or whatever you're working with. And I'm not going to dimension or anything. It's just going to be a shorty sticking out like that. And remember, I went into the miter flange command, so it knows it's sheet metal. It's not just a simple sketch. Close the sketch, and it starts to want to go around this. That is, it built one, and then notice this command right here, or that is this tool right here, propagate. Propagate, like all propagate within in SolidWorks, basically means take that and take it along the edge, follow the outline. So I'll zoom out a little so we can see this happen. Click on that propagate command. It looks at that whole edge and just builds that same flange and miters it at each corner, thus miter flange. Pretty neat tool. Let me hide this out of the way. So we haven't touched on everything, but you've got kind of a pretty good feel for some of the sheet metal tools. Lots more to dig into, but that gives you a pretty good overview. Thanks for watching.